Hello everyone, I'm Carthu and welcome back to the dojo. Today we will be discussing a controversial topic. Can a Pokemon face off fairly against the characters of Dragon Ball Z, any of them? Can a Pokemon even beat all of Dragon Ball Z? Let's discuss the strongest Pokemon, the god of all Pokemon, Arceus, versus Dragon Ball Z. Let's jump into this. So, a quick review of the Dbz Power Scale is that Vegeta in the Saiyan Saga is planet level, Frieza is star level. You can either use the Planet Vegeta calculation, but that's from specials and non-canon material. Realistically, using just pure multiplication, as power levels have become linear at this point, is the best method. Super Perfect Cell is then stated to be a solar system buster, which is backed up by the guides. And then, that leaves us with the strongest portion of Dragon Ball Z, not including End of Z, where there's no real feats to determine how strong the characters are, the Buu Saga. So, in the manga, the strongest character is Vegeto, specifically Super Vegeto, but just how strong is he? A guide for the manga states that Vegeto in base is stronger than Super Saiyan 3 Goku, so we can lowball this to be equal to Super Saiyan 3 Goku, which is a 400 times base Goku, or 8 times solar system level, because Goku in Super Saiyan 2 is 2 times that of his Super Saiyan form. His Super Saiyan form is not stated to be stronger than Super Perfect Cell, but his Super Saiyan 2 form is stated to be stronger than Gohan at the time of his fight with Cell. Gohan and Super Perfect Cell were relative to each other. This means that Goku is less than 2 times solar system level. But for the sake of argument, I'll say Goku is twice as strong as Gohan and Cell during the Cell arc, and that in Super Saiyan 3 he is 8 times solar system level, the additional 4 times of course coming for Super Saiyan 3's multiplier of 4 times. Vegeto is roughly equal to this, and can become Super Saiyan, so he's 50 times stronger than that, so Vegeto is 400 times stronger than solar system level. That's not even galaxy level, but for the sake of argument, let's say that Vegeto is galaxy level. Let's just have manga Vegeto at galaxy. In the anime, however, this is a little different. The strongest character is still Super Vegeto, but his scaling works a little different. In the original run of the DBZ anime, not Kai, Buhan was stated to be able to destroy the universe by collapsing multiple dimensions onto our own. Considering the fact that this attack is stated to be on a universal scale, we should take it as such, and it will be a universal feat. Then, considering that Super Vegeto was able to attack that Buhan during this attack and knock him out of it, Vegeto should be at least universal in the anime. I'll try not to linger too long on the Dragon Ball Z side of things here because I feel like it's a topic that most people are very aware of the scaling for, but just to reiterate, we'll take manga Vegeto as galaxy level at most, super highballed, and we'll take Vegeto in the anime as universal, again, at most, based on a feat that's really not universal. It's kind of hard to spell it out that way because he's just collapsing dimensions in on each other. So really just making those rips in reality are what caused the damage, not Buhan himself. But again, on a universal scale, he's ripping these dimensions. It's universal, we'll take it as such, just for the sake of argument. So now, let's get to Arceus. Arceus has a few iterations I'd like to go through, but there are some important prefaces to go through. First off, that in almost every single iteration, he is considered the creator of the universe, creator of space and time, and the deities that control both space and time. He also created dimensions for these deities, though that is only shown in movies. He did, however, consistently create another dimension that is parallel to Earth, but in some ways shown to be smaller, but it may be the same size depending on which canon you go by. At the very least, it's a parallel universe to Earth called the Distortion World, and this world is ruled by Giratina constantly being shown to be equal to the rulers of space and time, Palkia and Dialga. And again, Giratina created by Arceus. So we have 3 beings that are ruling 3 dimensions by Arceus. Alright, those are the general consensuses that I will be using during this project. Of course, we can lowball Arceus and say he didn't create any of the Pokemon, that he just created, space and time by themselves, just created the universe, whatever. My argument today will be from the mindset that he created everything. He is the original creator of the universe, and universes, potentially, time and space he existed outside of. The easiest iteration I'd like to go over is Pokemon Generations. In Pokemon Generations, episode 11, this was a promo anime. These went into stories that took place within the games and animated them as such. The story in episode 11 is pretty much based off of the events of Pokemon Platinum. Pokemon Platinum had Cyrus creating the Red Chain, summoning Palkia and Dialga, and trying to create a new universe. Now, reminder, mostly statements are saying that Palkia and Dialga will create and destroy the universe. However, the official description of the episode is, with the beginnings of a new universe laid out before him, Cyrus and Team Galactic faces extreme opposition, but aid arrives in an unusual form. The statements in the show have it being that Palkia and Dialga are destroying the current universe while creating a new one. This would be destroying half and creating half for each of them, or one universal feat for each Pokemon present. Since Palkia and Dialga, again by our prefaces, are created by Arceus, Arceus in turn should have the power to also create and destroy a universe. This would put him at twice universal, if not 4 times if you want to scale the fact that he created both Palkia and Dialga. And you could go even further than that and say 6 times universal if you really want to get crazy and count Giratina in there somehow. However, in this anime special, there's no real indication that Giratina is on those same universal scales, just Palkia and Dialga. Realistically, we'll go with 2 times universal for Arceus for the Pokemon Generations iteration. The next one I'd like to go over is the Pokemon anime. This would be Diamond and Pearl Galactic Battles, and it is season 12 of the anime. Now, Dialga himself, once again, is never shown, but we can base things off of feats from Palkia and Dialga. Palkia and Dialga were able to create and destroy a universe at the same time, much like in the Pokemon Generations special. That makes both of them universal, and since the Red Chain is stated to be God's power, and God is Arceus, then obviously Arceus is greater than universal, because the Red Chain is controlling both Palkia and Dialga at the same time, and harming them, I might add. But for the sake of argument, we can lowball him to casual universal like Palkia and Dialga. Palkia and Dialga were creating and destroying a universe in a very short amount of time as well. This was shown by the portal that Cyrus was jumping into at the end of the anime episode. It had hundreds, if not thousands of galaxies already visible and moving past the portal. Then they destroy that universe with 1 attack each. And they were casual attacks. A Roar of Time and a Spatial Rend is what it looked like. Those are not crazily exceptional moves. I mean, they do have the properties of space and time, but they didn't seem exerted after that, and they were just able to pretty much leave casually and didn't seem fretted or out of breath. Again, this would put casual universal for Arceus, if not 2 to 4 times universal. Now we move on to a weirder one, the movie. Arceus and the Jewel of Life. This movie has some weird consistency things. Arceus is hurt by normal Pokemon when he doesn't have some of his plates. He still has enough strength to break free though and deal damage and escape, but he's hurt enough that he has to go into sort of a recovery slumber. He also gets hit by this meteor, which makes him lose his plates. Now, is that just carelessness, off-guardness, or is that really the limits of his powers meteor level when his output is so much greater than that, even stated in this movie to be much greater than that? Can what he take be so much less than what he can dish out? It's possible, I guess, in this canon. Now, he's obviously holding back when he's destroying that country, town, whatever you want to call it, because Palkia and Dialga are shown taking hits from Judgment just fine with their barriers, and these Judgment attacks were meant for humans, buildings, landscapes, things like that. But then they were hurt by the other attacks that were meant for them, and even broke through the barriers. It's stated in this movie as well that Palkia and Dialga control space and time respectively, something we sort of universally agree to, but it's nice to have it stated. It's also stated that Arceus is probably the creator of everything, though it's not 100% either way. This is one of those things, again, that's sort of established in the community as true, but it's technically mythological in nature, and it's hard to prove these things without time traveling, of course. Now, the plates that Arceus have are stated to nullify every attack so long as he has all of them. No, it probably couldn't stop DBS characters, and for some reason couldn't stop the Meteor, but maybe because that's not an attack. But perhaps any non-universal foe could have their attacks nullified. Perhaps that means something more like key attacks. But if Ghost type is supposed to be, immune to fighting, would punches and kicks be something that Arceus could be immune to? Because that's what the plates really do. They change your type, but somehow have more immunities than the types have. It's a little bit of an up and down. Anyway, as an example, Busaga Goku's Kamehameha probably would not be able to hurt Arceus if it came down to it. It's hard to tell, of course. This is just conjecture. Now, a highballed Arceus is fourth dimensional due to existing outside of time and space before he created it. Now, that's something you could say in all iterations of Arceus if we take the whole creation thing seriously. However, that statement does seem a little excessive, especially with his showings in defensive capabilities. His offensive capabilities seem well capable of it, especially something we'll talk about in a minute. But realistically, I'd say 3 times universal at least, due to him defeating Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina at the same time, each of which should be universal at least. Palkia and Dialga just by showings, and Giratina just by the fact that he could tussle with the two of them fairly evenly. Another feat for Arceus in this movie is that he freezes time on his judgment attack at the end of the movie, and he broke out of a spatial warp. These are more so confirming the already preconceived notions of his control over time and space, similar to the time and space control he gave Dialga and Palkia. He literally just freezes time with his own attack, and the spatial warp that Palkia puts him in doesn't hold him for very long once he realizes what it is and just sort of breaks out. Now, his best feat in this movie, surprisingly enough, is actually just Arceus waking up. When Arceus woke up from his regenerative sleep, he dispersed enough energy to cause Palkia and Dialga's realms to collide and warp reality across the universe at Earth. Depending on how you see the explanation of the universe, Arceus may very well be in another universe, but we can lowball the distance to a galaxy away, and let's lowball it even further to the closest galaxy to the Milky Way, which is Andromeda, which is only 2.537 million light years away, a light year of course being the distance light can travel in a year. Lowballing the time it took to reach Earth to about 1 minute, that's 157,683,333,333 kilometers per second, or over 525,000 times faster than the speed of light. This lowballs how close Arceus is, this lowballs the time in which it took the attack to reach Earth, this lowballs a lot of factors, and we still get such a drastically high number relative to the speed of light. He could very well have his own separate mini-universe that he resides in, since it's stated that Palkia and Dialga have their own space that should never meet, and if space is all connected, then they would meet eventually, and Arceus' realm is described the same way. So Arceus' realm should be its own mini-universe, just like Palkia, Dialga, and Giratina's Distortion World. Basically, Arceus' attack speed should be faster than the number I gave by a crap ton, to be honest, but that lowball is already incredible. His travel speed, however, seems a little bit different in terms of argumentation, since he warps around everywhere, though he is shown galloping through space like the beautiful god llama he is. It's hard to say if he's faster than light in motion, or if that's just like an attacking thing, an energy dispersing from his body thing, perhaps even just reaction speeds. Either way, his in-combat speed should be far greater than light. Movement speed, travel speed, possibly not. That does, however, bring up the point that Arceus could be able to replicate the universal feat that Buhan did of collapsing dimensions, since Arceus has the ability to also rend space and create wormholes or tears in dimensions if Arceus is perhaps in a different dimension than the rest of the universes like Palkia, Dialgas, Garantina's, and Earth. It's very possible he could have that ability. It's just hard to say. He's definitely able to casually do something that Super Buu struggled to do in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber, and Super Buu was greater than Super Saiyan 3 Goku. It's just hard to be 100% sure how he scales to Buhan. He seems pretty fodder in comparison. So as the wrap-up, the movie here seems to have some of the best feats for speed and power, while also having a sort of defense issue where Arceus doesn't have as much defenses as he does have offenses. So I think the outcome of this seems pretty obvious, but other than Buhan and Vegeto from the anime, there is no character that could pose a threat to most forms of Arceus, if not all of them. Other than the Jewel of Life movie's weird scene where Arceus was able to be hurt by some random Pokemon just because he was missing his resistance plate to that type, the electric type attacks, it does seem like he was still fairly strong. I mean, he got up, he flew away, he destroyed the temple, he stopped the attack. He also, without the same plates, was able to fight Palkia, Dialga, and Giratina at the same time, which is madness. He also was still able to nullify their attacks, meaning that so long as he has the plate that is able to ignore the typing of the attack you are trying to use on him, he can nullify your attack, even if he's missing all the other ones. It does actually seem much more likely to believe that Arceus was caught off guard during the movie's surprise attack scene, rather than actually ready to fight like he was with Palkia, Dialga, Giratina, or in this case, the battle that I'm proposing, where he's about to face off. And to be honest, I am assuming that this Arceus in our fight has all of his plates, but let's assume it doesn't give him any notable strength increases. It simply allows him to nullify more attacks or all types of attacks. So Arceus completely nullifying attacks from beings that are consistently shown throughout the multiple canons to be universal in power is pretty insane, and would most likely allow him to nullify anything that isn't greater than universal at least. Arceus' biggest disadvantage in this battle would probably be speed, more so than power. However, Dragon Ball has a rule that you can only overcome someone's hacks abilities via strength. This is shown with Majin Vegeta and Jiren. Jiren is the more important example here because he was able to overcome time-based hacks, but only by being stronger than hit. This is shown in both the anime and manga, though slightly differently. The relevance here is that Arceus should have control over time and space, since he was able to create Dialga and Palkia, as well as the universe itself. He also, of course, has the feats in the movie, where he broke out of a spatial warping and got rid of the spatial warping, is able to warp through portals in the movie, and is able to stop time. I find it hard to argue that Arceus wouldn't have time manipulation as one of his abilities, so he'd be able to manipulate time on anyone weaker than him, which would allow him to attack freely regardless of speed difference. He also has great precognition and reaction speed. This is shown mostly by his nullification of attacks right as they're about to hit him, and him being able to follow Giratina's Shadow Sneak, a move that Arceus shouldn't be able to detect, and react to it and counterattack accordingly. That being said, Super Vegeto in the anime is probably able to defeat most forms of Arceus. Buhan would be a closer fight, but Buhan seemed universal at full power, while Arceus is 2 to 3 times universal based on his fights with Palkia, Dialga, and Giratina, as well as the fact that, once again, in the Jewel of Life movie, Arceus created the universe, Giratina's realm, Palkia's realm, Dialga's realm, and his own realm. Now, whether he created all of these at the same time or not, it's impossible to be sure. However, Arceus is consistently stated to have created everything. In all continuities, there are at least 2 universes. In 3 of the 4, we are directly shown that Palkia and Dialga creating and destroying a universe is canon. It is accepted that Arceus created Palkia and Dialga, which makes him more powerful than them by proxy in this universe. So, Arceus is 2 to 5 times universal depending on the continuity. His attack speed in Jewel of Life is pretty insane, and the only Dragon Ball Z character that could potentially take him out is Super Vegeto, but that depends on how much stronger Super Vegeto is than Buhan, and that has yet to be confirmed in any sense. I'd probably place Buhan on the losing side of this equation, but at like a medium difficulty for Arceus. Again, take into account that Arceus has a lot of hacks, guys. He has decent attacking speed, though not great, some form of potential precognition. I'm not going to say that's 100% confirmed, though it did seem that way. And he does just seem to have more raw power than these guys. So if he could time freeze them and attack them and obliterate them, then he probably will. That's it for me, guys. I'm sure this one's going to get a lot of controversy. Leave your opinions and counterpoints in the comments down below. Subscribe if you want more anime videos. Check out my second channel that I just started. I did a breakdown of the recent Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee trailer. I really got into detail of little nuances you could see throughout the trailer, going frame by frame in some cases. And I think you'd really enjoy it if you enjoy the Pokemon franchise. That's all from me, guys. But for now, video outro.